Yeah. All right, good morning, everyone. In your packet, there should be minutes from the board meeting of January 28th. I would entertain a motion.
So move that.
I have a second. Minutes.
Oh, yes. Well, no, I can't. I wasn't there.
Okay.
Sorry, never mind.
Second, anyone? Thanks, John Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. In the interest of time, I think we're going to enter executive session to have a discussion about the disposition.
Potential disposition of real property, the publicity of which would substantially affect the value thereof.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a full motion? Yeah.
Yes. So now we'll come out. is in your package.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Second.
okay, great.
Okay, we're on wait for a second there, would you mind just saying that motion is started?
Yeah, the motion that was put on the table and then seconded is to, for the, corporation to accept the, annual results of the annual audit and then to approve and authorize staff to enter into the public authority reporting information system, the annual report, the procurement report, the investment report, and then the audit. So that's the motion.
And I will just add that no action occurred in
And I
the
will say-
prior executive session, and it was just a discussion, so Richard Cleveland was able to remain based on his prior refusals for CBRE.
Okay, so we, Mike,
Motion, so audit committee meeting, met this last week. We, were greeted with, Jessica Blau and Brian Kearns, and Brian's with us today. The good news that they, have reported an unmodified opinion on that. I'd say the highlights was that there was really, cash went up by $740,000 related to a revolving loan fund. And you can read about that in note 11. I won't go into the details for sake of time. And those funds are now available to the corporation for its general purposes. Also, there's property held for investment went up by around 2 million. And that's reflecting in investments in 34 Hamilton, which is the bus station, as well down in Liberty Park, as well as the Clinton Market Collective. I'd say, other than that, Brian, if there's anything else that you think notable, I'd
Sure.
like to hand it over to you.
Oh, okay, thanks. Good morning, everyone. I'm Brian Kearns with UHY, partner at the firm. And yes, as Michael said, we just met last week to review the audit results and, you know, as he said, it's unmodified opinion. So that's the highest level of assurance you can receive from the independent auditors that your reports are free of material misstatement. And because it's done under government auditing standards, we also issue a report over internal control over financial reporting. So if there were any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, those would be reported in writing, which you had none. So again, clean audit reports, and your net asset position, just to note, you know, is up to currently unrestricted. Your total net assets are 21.2 million. Your unrestricted net assets are over 7.3 million. So the majority of your net assets are in property and equipment. But again, your unrestricted position of 7.3 million is basically held in cash and investments available from unrestricted purposes of the corporation, which represents about 3.5 times your unrestricted or your net operating expenses. So again, from a non-for-profit standpoint, you're at a current healthy fund balance. That includes about $500,000, a little less than $500,000 of investment income. You know, so if you were to spend down, you know, your available net assets, you know, just be cognizant of that the investment income, you know, might go down in the future if you were to release those net assets and spend them. But other than that, again, a clean audit report and very, very solid. Just thank management for their cooperation, you know, providing everything that we needed from the requests.
An audit committee approved the report, and we're recommending to the board for their consideration and approval.
okay, any discussion, any questions? I think as part of the motion, we also had the acceptance of the Paris report.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
and those are in your package.
Yeah.
They're the annual reports the corporation does each year. And it includes the financial information as well, so that's.
For the board members, so if the board members could review their own information,
Yeah.
And ensure that's
yeah,
correct.
make sure that's correct.
So I think just get it to us as soon as possible. We'll
Yeah.
be shooting to submit this before the end of the month.
Okay, great.
All right, any further discussion before we vote on the motion? I think that's the next procedural step, correct? No further discussion, all in favor, there's a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay,
All right, so should we
Yeah.
move to,
Do you want to do
Resolution two.
Sure, that's a separate.
Yeah, so then there's, I just want to note really super quick, there is a management assessment of internal controls report in your packet as we do annually, and there is an audit committee annual report as we do annually as well, for the board's review. We will jump to the next agenda item, which was the finance and investment committee subject. We had, mid-year last year, and say we had engaged, third-party counsel, Hacker Murphy, to review, some of our, quote, bad debt, in terms of appropriation. Folks that were these long-standing legacy loans, some of them dating back as early as the 1980s. Really had that council review the potential collectability of those loans. The finding from that team was the majority of these sort of 8 mortgagees. I think 5 out of the 8 were deemed uncollectible, and they were time barred based on last payments received and last communication with the borrowers. So what we're looking for here, and we have guidance from the authority's budget office as for what we're gonna do in Paris in terms of, maybe you wanna clarify that a little bit.
Sure, so per the ABO, anytime a loan is being uncollectible, and we've done the document, 5 mortgages, 11 loans in total. It's appropriate to mark it as satisfied. That's just the ABO convention for retiring on a loan. So what we're looking for is the permission to mark as satisfied the 5 mortgages, 11 loans. If they're satisfied, we move them from parent to authority. So going forward, we will not track these. ABO will not track them. They will drop off the compliance report. No financial impact. These have all been 100% previously reserved for. So really, this is just a compliance action, nothing to do with the internal legislation.
And you have on page 154 and 155 of your packet, the resolution that authorizes us as such, and there's an exhibit A, which lists those accounts by mortgagee. And then there's a staff memo for the board in draft version for the action.
But at this point, it's clear that they're uncollectible, whether for legal reasons or because.
It's just a quick question, edification, I didn't go through this, version of this issue. So you use the word mortgagee several times, is there a tangible asset backing up the debt? That's,
So some of these, no, because earlier boards decided to release a security interest. And then some of these, it was evaluated many years ago that there is not enough equity because we're always a second position
sure.
on these, that it was worth the legal expense to go through. And in a number of these, the borrowers have declared and have received a discharge in bankruptcy. So this was loans that kept coming to the finance committee. They've been reserved for, I think, more than 10 years. And the idea was, why are we tracking these? Because there's
you're
not
basically
there's
chasing
not
that
a cost
Got it.
benefit to going and continuing to try to collect.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah,
But it's just, I was gonna ask the same question. So
Yeah.
has our lead position been nullified?
so what happens is they're still that, the ones that we do have interest on remain of record.
Okay,
What often happens is when they try to sell, they will come to us, and we've had that come a few times.
right.
To be clear, after 6 years, we're not allowed. I'd rather do this, but yes, those names are remaining,
Okay,
yes.
good. Okay, thank you.
And the 3 that we are not collecting, there are different terms related to the disposition of the property where we would be entitled to payment. So we're just basically monitoring those ones, and we'll have hopefully maybe a positive update in the near future when one of them closes on a sale. We'll take a motion on the loan write-off and 2024 Paris reporting resolution 4-2024.
Motion. Second.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
That is all for official action. We did provide you an annual report in your packet related to the small business grant programs. This is a report required by the terms of the master grant agreement. If you recall, we did sign on to a 10-year agreement with CRC for all of these grant programs. And as a requirement of that program, we report back to both of the boards by April 15th each year. The CAC does have a memo for you all with respect to that, with details on all of the awards to date. We can present that, but there's not really any official action other than reporting out to the board.
Yeah. So to date, the CRC has committed $1,090,000 in funding to the corporation for small business grant programs to be administered through CAC. Albany Community Development Agency has committed an additional $375,000 for the small business facade improvement program. Since the inception of the grant programs in 2016, the total funding made available under the programs totals $1.4 million. And in 2024, the CRC granted an additional budgeted $70,000 to the corporation, subject to the agreements. Pursuant to the approved program guidelines, the corporation has made 148 awards totaling $1,236,344.26. We like to be exact. And of these awards, 825,228.41 has been reimbursed, with another $230,410.30 still obligated to outstanding awards. And then we have served about 123 businesses in ACDA designated neighborhood strategy areas. And we're working with businesses in 16 distinct neighborhoods. Over 80% of our funding is reimbursed under qualified census tract areas. And then on the following pages, you can see a breakdown of all of the active grants to date, excluding PIG. So we have Amplify Albany Downtown Retail, the Facade Improvement Program, and the Neighborhood Retail Grant Program. And you can see kind of what's been going on with those over the course of the program. And then on the following pages, you'll have just the 2024 breakdown and our more recent activity.
I'll add that we, just as of last week, we got our budgeted approvals from CRC for facade and amplify for 2025. So 60,000 for facade additional and an additional 15,000 for amplify Albany for us to be able to carry out those programs this year. Facade, Cassidy has been lining that program up for a launch. So we're expecting a launch in early April. And we are working on a press announcement related to that with the city. But overall, solid programs, they get a lot of attention, and we're working to expand that, expand the interest in the neighborhood retail grant program. We got that recent approval on the expanded boundary guidelines. That's already getting more attention and more potential applicants. So it's doing what it needed to do in terms of the boundary extension and that board approved.
Anything else?
I think we've covered most of it, and
We're out of order.
yeah, we are out of, so I think we can.
Just other business?
As far as other business, we've had most of that. Clinton Market, we, based on the board action in January, we've been working steadily, and I just want to say across the board, staff has been super busy from January until March. I think there was a note in audit committee that the financials had less activity or looked a little during the committee, and we were like, that's only on the financial paperwork side, that's not necessarily on the staffing side. With all of the recent board authorizations related to negotiating contracts, staff and council has been very, very busy working to negotiate all of those contracts and get those moving. So back to Clinton Market, we are working with Relentless to engage in that contract per the resolution, no revenue sharing, fixed fee contract. We are very close to that. We are also working with the city on an MOU for site access so that they will provide access to Skyway and Quackenbush Square, and we will provide access to Clinton Market so that they can get a consolidated review process for all of those events and get that in tandem. We have also worked with the city on potentially, the city, it seems like will be doing the maintenance services for that site moving forward. So that's a big win in terms of expenses on our end. Sign the agreement first. We are working on, we have the executed grant, disbursement agreement with Empire State Development that we'll be submitting this week. To get that remaining $750,000 on construction. Busy time, and we're just working on that. And on the staffing front, I anticipate providing an offer later this week for our senior economic developer position. So wish me luck, and hopefully we'll have a new face soon. Very great.
Sure. Any other business? You wanna make a motion?
That's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.